This video is brought to you by Nebula. The Schengen Area is one of the great examples of European integration. A border-free area comprising 27 European countries, allowing for the free movement of its hundreds of millions of inhabitants and anyone visiting. You could, for example, travel from Toledo to Tromsø, crossing multiple national borders without anyone checking your passport. But the free travel area is arguably in crisis, with member states re-establishing border controls amid migratory fears, and attempts to expand the area being repeatedly blocked. So in this video, we'll explain what's going on with the Schengen area, and why some say it no longer functions. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. To begin with, it's probably worth explaining a little more about what the Schengen Area is, and where it came from. The principle of free movement has long been key to the European project, with the 1957 Treaty of Rome containing provisions on free movement between member countries. While this was significant, the concept of free movement at the time applied to working Europeans, and gave them the freedom to settle and work in any member state, but fell short of dismantling border controls between countries. Then, in 1985, a breakthrough agreement was signed in Luxembourg, near a village called Schengen. This agreement, between 5 of the 10 European Economic Community member states, proposed the gradual abolition of checks at their common borders, and a supplementary convention signed in 1990 proposed the complete abolition of internal border controls and the establishment of a common visa policy. The agreement entered into force in 1995 and has fallen under EU law since 1999, when it was incorporated by the Treaty of Amsterdam. Nowadays, the Schengen Area encompasses most EU countries, but also 4 non-EU states: Iceland, Norway, Switzerland and Liechtenstein. There's also Monaco, San Marino and the Vatican City, microstates that aren't Schengen members but effectively operate as if they are. On the other hand, there are 4 European Union member states who are not part of the area. These are Ireland, which has an opt-out, and Cyprus, Bulgaria and Romania, who are obligated under EU law to join the area in the future and are at differing stages of the process. It's here that we get to the first of the troubles facing the Schengen area: expansion, or rather its difficulties expanding. The newest member of the Schengen area is Croatia, who officially joined at the beginning of 2023. Croatia became a member of the European Union back in 2013, so its path from there to becoming a Schengen member took just about a decade. Romania and Bulgaria, however, have been EU members since 2007, but are still not part of the Schengen area, despite trying to join as far back as 2011, when they completed the evaluation process. Their efforts have been blocked despite repeated calls from both the European Parliament and European Commission, who say both countries have fulfilled membership requirements for years. In fact, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen raised the subject in her State of the Union speech in September, saying they have proved it, so let us finally bring them in without any further delay. The problem for Romania and Bulgaria is that accession to the Schengen area requires unanimous approval from current member states, and they face continued opposition from just 1 or 2. In Romania's case, Austria is the roadblock, while for Bulgaria it's Austria and the Netherlands. Austria insists that its opposition is not mean-spirited towards either country, but rather comes from concerns over corruption and inadequate border controls that could result in increased irregular migration into the EU via the 2 countries. This has caused deep frustration, particularly in Romania, where the country has threatened to end the involvement of an Austrian company in a Romanian gas project. And the Prime Minister has raised the prospect of taking Austria to court, demanding billions of euros as compensation for the more than decade-long wait to join the Schengen area, which the Prime Minister says has cost Romania up to 2% of its economic output. While the Netherlands looks to have softened its position on Bulgaria's accession to Schengen, Austria looks unflinching in its opposition to both Romania and Bulgaria. Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer is effectively opposed to any Schengen expansion before the zone, and EU migration rules as a whole are reformed. This has led to the Romanian president declaring that Schengen no longer functions and almost doesn't exist, adding that many states, particularly in Central Europe, have closed their borders due to migration. This takes us on to the other factor straining the Schengen area: the reimposition of border controls. Under EU law, Schengen member states are allowed to temporarily reintroduce border controls in the event of a serious threat to public policy or internal security. provided it's a last resort measure and an exceptional situation. At the time of writing, border controls have been temporarily reintroduced in around 10 countries: Italy, Slovenia, Austria, Denmark, Norway, Germany, Czechia, Poland, Sweden and France. Most of these countries cite high migrationary pressures and the threat of violence and terror as their justification for doing so, with particular references to the situations in Israel and Ukraine, human smuggling, increased migration flows, and so on. This phenomenon is not limited to governments of specific stripes, as that list of countries includes those led by the left of centre, right of centre, populists, mainstream parties and more. With migration a hot-button topic across the EU, a cynic would suggest that political posturing might be at least part of the calculation made by said governments, in addition to genuinely trying to counter the stated threats. Now, at face value, temporary controls in response to specific challenges may not seem like that much of a big deal. But far from being temporary, in a significant number of cases, it's becoming the new normal. 6 countries in particular have effectively been continually extending these temporary measures since around 2015-2016. The European Commission is growing increasingly frustrated at this and has launched a formal consultation procedure with all involved states. In a sort of self-reinforcing way, it represents a growing lack of faith among European countries that the EU's approach to free movement and migration isn't working as desired. Regardless of whether you think the reimposition of border controls is the right or wrong thing to do, most would surely agree that it does further undermine the Schengen project, a core feature of European integration. And if this is to be overcome, then it will require the European Union to tackle the issue of migration as a whole, something they're trying to do, and something we dive deeper into in our recent video on Europe's migratory crisis. Be sure to check that out. That's unfortunately all we have time for on YouTube today, but if you enjoyed this video and want to support us in making more of this kind of content, then you should check out Nebula. That's the creator-built and creator-owned streaming service where you can watch all of our videos and podcasts across our channels, totally ad-free. Plus, we post some of our videos on there early, and there's a bunch of exclusive content already there waiting for you on the platform. Now, if that wasn't enticing enough, Nebula is also full of incredible content from other creators you know and love, like Johnny Harris, Real Life Law, and Legal Eagle, as well as lots of cool creators you haven't even discovered yet. And the best thing is that this can all be yours for the price of just $2.50 per month. So check it out by clicking the link in the description, and make sure you use our link so they know you came from us, which will help us produce more content in the future.